Hello and welcome to AvenGERS with a huge emphasis on the Gers. This is where once a month Earth's mightiest Rangers podcast come together to defeat the forces of evil, and why no start it in the week ahead of the Old Firm. My name's Colin and you'll find me on the Gallant Few podcast usually, and I'm delighted to be hosting the first month of this. I don't know if I'm delighted, nervous. It kind of is like the Old Firm week. Don't know. I've got all these emotions, excited, scared. I don't know what's going to happen. Here to join me tonight, an esteemed lineup. First of all, Scotty Mackay. How are you?
Aye, not bad, Colin. Not bad. Excited about this wee adventure we've kind of pulled together. So should be pretty good. As everybody knows, I'm running a Rangers Journal podcast these days, but I still appear on the Rangers Assessment and the Gallant Few.
Aye, you know, you're probably the Dujo and Sterling of podcasts. We can slot you in anywhere. Let's keep going in proper Paddy McGuinness style. I'll say your name, you tell us where you come from. Also joining us is Andrew. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Colin. I'm not too bad. I'm Andrew from the Ibrox channel. I'm over on Twitter. Can't call it X. Twitter at the Ibrox channel. You'll find the podcast, the new Ibrox channel podcast from your normal podcast store. And got a website as well, theibroxchannel.com. Do a little bit of writing on there sometimes. I haven't done that in a while, but I need to get back to that. But it's a pleasure to be here with the esteemed people of the Rangers podcasting world. There's just so many beautiful faces in front of me. I feel, well, this is brilliant. I'm in awe.
It's bizarre when you hear people's voice and then you actually go in and see them for the first time, isn't it?
I've always been told I got a face for radio, so...
Well, first time we've met, so I'm going to leave that comment to you. I'm not going to. I'll leave those comments for the second pod. Next up, the self-acclaimed Tony Stark of Rangers podcast. Scott, how are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. It's a pleasure to be on this with you. I know all you guys pretty well, so it's good that we're finally working together. And as I say, I bankroll this. I'm the guy. I've got the tower, so it's all. I'm only joking, but yeah, you can find me on the Rangers Assessment, the Rangers specific pod. You might know me as well from SM Media. I do pretty much everything Scottish football, but we've ventured into doing our own Rangers podcast, so you can find that obviously on Twitter. You can find that on YouTube, Spotify as well. I think everybody in the show's been on, so it's familiar faces to me, but we're all really excited to be part of this, and we're all working together, and we're all wanting to improve the culture of Rangers podcasts.
We'll call you the glue going forward, yeah. You know, just bringing it all together and making it stick.
I'll take that. I was actually going to say to Scott, there's probably 20 people. Like there's a lot of people you can compare. Scott's in every single Rangers podcast I watch, by the way. Like everything. Like I see Scott more than I see my own family. Like that shows you one or two things, that he's committed and he's also well recognised. So fair play to him.
And he's MDs for a £5 as well. You know, that's cheap date, boys. Cheap date. Last, by no means least, joining us, Jack Hamilton. How you doing, my friend?
Aye, I'm doing well. Thank you, everybody, for obviously having me on. It's a great opportunity. I'll get together and talk about Rangers. So, I do my own part as well with every other Saturday podcast. You can find us on YouTube at that name, and also on Twitter at every other Satu1, where we tweet a load of crap.
So on that note, make sure you go and like, subscribe, follow all the podcasts, 5 great channels you've got on here. If you don't mind me saying so myself. So let's kick in, gents. Scotty Mac, I'm going to come to you first. At the time of recording, it's Tuesday, and Twitter and social media and the country's already in meltdown in general. So tell me there's an Old Firm without saying there's an Old Firm. It's probably quite a more hysterical reaction what I've seen before. So early on, usually this is the Thursday, Friday we start seeing this carnage. How big is this game this weekend? Is that a sign of the times?
I think it's probably the biggest one in the last 10 years, to be honest with you, Colin. We've not been in a title race and that length of time. I think it's safe to say, obviously, we won a league in the 55 season, but I think in terms of magnitude, and the spotlight's going to be on this game more so than previously in the past couple of seasons. It's all set up to be a right tasty football match as well. I'm hoping to see some tackles flying in. I want some drama. I want goals. Basically, bring it on as far as I'm concerned.
Andrew, first big question of the night in proper question time style. Does winner take all on Sunday?
I think for me, whoever wins puts 3 fingers on the trophy, I think. I think for us, if we can win that, obviously then win our game in hand. 5 points is a great position to be in going into the remaining, 5 games, which is, it's not a lot of football to be played. For Celtic, I think that it gives them a bit of belief because they've had such a rocky few months where they've hit a little bit of a stable patch. I think this would the second that they kind of go top, I think it's very difficult for us to go to Parkhead and get any points. It's not impossible, but it's always very difficult when you've got 60,000 fans there. I really do feel that it's whoever wins this game, for me personally, it's a very big step towards a title. I really do. And that's no disrespect to the other teams in the top 6. Obviously, you're playing the best of the rest going into this final part of the season. But I think it's huge, absolutely huge. And like Scott there said, there hasn't been a proper title race like this at this point of the season, probably for a decade, because 55, it was wrapped up essentially in December in some respects, wasn't it?
Yes, and for them to saying that these these type of title races are better than what you get in 55, I've said time again, you're a psychopath. Title races aren't enjoyable during it. It's only after the fact when you look back. Scott, Andrew's made a really good point there on what I kind of wanted to come to. I do agree this is massive, and whoever wins on Sunday will be heavy favourites to go on and win the title. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, but I do see both teams dropping points elsewhere. I just don't think either have been consistent enough across the full season. I do see a slip up here and there for both sides.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, and I think it's the games where you look at, like, Celtic have got the bragging rights in this game, let's be honest. They've won the first 2 games. Rangers, though, will probably feel hard done by it. They didn't get something out of both games. Like, I think the first game was down to very, very poor tactics, let's be honest. The second game was just those mistakes that just killed Rangers, and they just obviously losing the man in the second half when they were really pushing for an equaliser it was a game of fine margins, and we've said it, like the 2 games this season, it's came down to a clinical striker. That has essentially been as close as that. But I do agree. I think Rangers and Celtic are both going to drop points between now and the end of the season. But I think more for Rangers on Sunday, that's a huge chance to make a statement, because if Celtic win, that's the 3rd game they've won against Rangers. Whereas that's a must win for Rangers. Let's not kid ourselves. Rangers need to win this just to have that psychological advantage that Celtic have at the moment. Celtic are going in confident because they've beaten Rangers twice this season without really playing well, and that's where Rangers need to this is the chance for Rangers to really kick on. And I do agree with Scott and Andrew's point. This is the biggest Rangers Celtic game I can remember in a long time, probably the closest one in terms of it could be that important. Do you remember the game Rangers played Celtic? Murty was the manager and it finished 3-2. And you thought that could potentially be a big kind of chance for Rangers to step up. It's probably the tightest since then in terms of the way it could go, because Rangers finally have a manager who is tactically flexible. He's able to change things when he wants. Celtic are beginning to find their feet. I watched Celtic in the second half on Sunday, and they looked pretty good. They looked as if they were pretty cohesive, and I think it is the makings of a great game. Now, I've got to be honest, and I don't know what you guys are like, I really don't find the fun in these games anymore, like the build up to them, just because of what we've had today. Like, it's maybe different for me in terms of like looking at it in different perspectives, but I just completely think it's ridiculous. Just the hype of this game now between now and Sunday. It will not be on. These two sides are going to be very, very tactical, very, very good to watch. Both have real quality in their side, but no, we're not going to hear about that. We're going to hear about what pub does this referee drink in. That's kind of what we're going to get this week, and that's what we can do. We can talk about what the football side of it is, and that's what I think the good thing is that these are two really good footballing sides, and they're two very even sides. So I think it's going to be a very, very exciting game. I just hope we get a bit of a good build.
I do really like your work, Scott, and I think it's very hard to do, be impartial. But cards on the table, disclaimer. I made a fake screenshot of a John Beaton text today, so that's how impartial I was on Twitter today. I was all for it, but your point stands. Your point does stand. The best way to hype up our game is to actually speak about the football. And Jack, going back to Scott's earlier points, it's a really good analogy that Graham Murray, well, we had a chance just to get over the hurdle. And I think we're almost at a stage where we were with Gerrard, where it's just one milestone after another. We've won the League Cup under Clement. We've no beat Celtic yet. And it pains me to say Celtic do have that muscle memory.
Yeah, exactly what Celtic have in this fixture is the leeway. They have the confidence really going into the tie now. I can't remember the last memorable one that we won in the league. I think you might be going back to kind of Hollander days, and that's quite an alarming fact. It's no secret that we have to start performing better in these ties because, as you say, Celtic have got a number in them, and they have done for the past couple of seasons. Just in this one, this season, especially, they've not really played well. They've got the job done. We've had Cyril Dessers up front, who obviously has cost us. They've got Kyogo up front, who's obviously bagging them goals to win games. I think that's kind of been the difference. I think someone mentioned that previously as well. But the platform's there for us. It's at Ibrox. Philippe Clement's Rangers is a whole different team than what it was the last time we played there. It's Celtic probably at their strongest now with Hatate coming back in, Palma and McGregor, and obviously Rangers bringing Sima back into the fold as well. It's got the makings for a massive tie with two teams, as Scott said, going toe-to-toe with probably some of the best football in the country.
Hey, Colin, I just want to nip back in. I forgot to say in the introduction that you can find the Rangers Journal on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. That's our platforms currently. So I think we're on Spotify and things like that as well. So I just wanted to add that in. Cheers.
Never at all. And listeners just know where to find them. All the links will be in all the show descriptions, I'm sure. And you'll find us. We'll be plus on social media this week. The five of us, I'm sure. Jack, I'm going to stick with you. You mentioned the likes of McGregor, Hatate coming back, and I think, I'm going to be honest. I'm stealing a cliche here. I'm not intelligent enough to make my impact. The game will be won and lost in the midfield. Anybody that's ever listened to the Gallant Few know I run the John Lunsome RSC. He's in there, the middle of the park. I think he's one of the form players under Philippe Clement. The question is, who's the two in alongside him? If you're picking the team on Sunday, who do you put in?
I think it's obviously really easy to go with Mohamed Diomande, as he's played probably more naturally alongside John Lundstrom recently. I would probably lean towards Diomande and Cantwell as my three kind of in the middle of the pitch, but I think there's arguments to be made for the likes of Dujon Sterling even in there. It's going to be a whole debate over the week to see if Ridvan Yilmaz does make that game on Sunday, which I think he'll obviously step into left back. But I think Sterling gave himself a really good showing in Saturday as well when he came in at left back. I thought he really nullified Hibs' threat on the wide areas, and he looked better than Barisic for me in that position, be more comfortable with somebody like him there. Also Tom Lawrence as well. I think he's kind of maybe been pushed to the side a wee bit because Cantwell's come back into the fold, which is unfortunate. But Tom Lawrence, again, he's in with a shout. If it's deployed deeper next to Lundstrom, it's ahead in kind of Cantwell's position. I think there's arguments to be made there. I think obviously Nico Raskin's not played too much, so I don't expect him to be kind of involved. But I think Diomande and Cantwell for me would be the two next to Lundstram in the middle of the park.
Scotty Mac, I'm fully with Jack in the Diomande and Lundstram partnership. I think Lundstram gives you that stability, Diomande gives you energy. I do think there's more of a conversation to have on who's in front of them. I can see the benefits of both Todd Cantwell and Tom Lawrence. Lawrence will bring you a bit of aggression. Conway's days at Derby, maybe sometimes a bit too much aggression, but Todd Cantwell can do things that no other Rangers player can do.
For me, you need Dujon Sterling and John Lundstram in the middle of the park running the midfield. And whether that's Diomande dropping it or not, then so be it for me. You need Sterling's physicality and athleticism in the middle of the park because a game's going to be won in the middle of the park. But what I would like to see is getting away from what's this idea that we need to press Callum McGregor or whoever's in the 10 position needs to do that. I want to see one of the centre mids pushing up onto Callum McGregor, and I want to see one number 10 doing his job and having an impact on the game. I don't want to speak about Callum McGregor at the end of the game and say, for example, Todd Cantwell didn't do a good enough job on him. I want to see Todd Cantwell scoring or assisting a winner. That's what I want to focus on. I don't want to focus on how Celtic are going to play. I want to focus on what Rangers are going to do instead of stopping that Callum McGregor. So for me, Middeley Park has got to be Sterling and Lundstram just because of that, just because of the legs, to be honest with you, and the physicality. You need that on Saturday. That's where it's going to be won and lost for me.
Andrew, it's an interesting point, and I'm probably going to lose some staunch points here, but I think we need to be adults and concede that Celtic are a good team. You know, Scott mentioned it earlier on. I'm probably going to disagree with Scott Mackay there and say that I think we do need to tailor it on no disrupting our game too much, but except we need to combat Celtic's game. It's not just turning up to Dundee, and if we play our best game, however way we want it, we're going to take the points. I think if I look at the Rangers' performances in the past, we have nullified Callum McGregor. We've put Scott Arfield on him, but he's probably the best one that done it. And we have lacked that recently. So I think there maybe is an argument that we do a bit of both.
I totally agree. When you look at the last Ibrox game and Callum McGregor just kind of run amok, didn't he? I totally agree with Scott there. You want your number 10 to be able to do his role, and kind of pulling him away from doing that to kind of try and keep a lid on McGregor. It didn't really work, did it? I do love Diomande. I do like the way he plays. He's a very technical player. However, Sterling will shut a lot down. And I think you need to have a strong midfield. Now, Lundstram, he's come on leaps and bounds under Clement. He's really getting the best out of him. However, he has started to look a little leggy in recent weeks. He's looked a little tired in games. But I'm not doubting he's going to give an empty the tank performance on Sunday. You can't not have him in the team. He's just been absolutely phenomenal for us. As you say, Colin, it is going to be a game that's won in the midfield. And I do think, like Scotty, it's got to be Sterling and Lundstram. I think you can sacrifice the left back position if Yilmaz still isn't fit. I think he will be by the sounds of it. But also, are we going to get the same type of Callum McGregor? Because, at the end of the day, we're not sure if he's 100% yet. He's coming back. He's been in training. Is he going to be the same player yet, or is he going to have to get up to speed? Obviously, you don't want to take that risk, but definitely still in the midfield. That's where his qualities for me at the minute are, and I think it adds a bit of steel there. So, we're not like a hot knife going through butter for McGregor.
Scott, I'll come to you. I think Dujon Sterling is fast approaching the top pick for a number of positions. He's pushing at full back. He's pushing either wing. For me, midfield isn't his best position. I think there are better options there. I do get the fit. He's probably the most athletic midfielder that we have, or athletic player we can play in midfield. I don't think he's as good and comfortable on the ball as what we'd like him to be for a number 8.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I think as well, what I've really liked about Diomande is just the difference he's made in terms of moving the ball forward. But that's really stood out to me now. He's good on the press. He's able to kind of break up play, but he's really, really quick at kind of transitions, getting the ball forward. There's no coincidence that since he's come in, I mean, he's added, I mean, he scored 2 goals already. I just think he brings a different dynamic to the side. I don't think he was great on Saturday, to be fair. I thought at times you could see like the way Hibs, because Hibs are good in midfield. That's one thing about them. They're quite robust. And I don't think that game suited them. But I think he's going to get a lot of the ball on Sunday. I think he will play. I think he needs to play alongside Lundstrom. Fully agree that Lundstrom's just been a stable piece of calmness into that side. And he is the one that's just been, Clement has clearly said, you're better than what you've shown recently. You've got a part to play here. I can build my midfield around you. And Lundstrom, to be fair to him, is taking it leaps and bounds. If you said to me at the start of the season, John Lundstrom gets a new deal, I'd have said he's not worth it. Now I think he's the first. I think you've got to get him signed up as quickly as possible, because he's just brought a level of calmness to a Rangers midfield that needed it. And I think Diamandi suits him well. Sterling can really kind of play where he wants. If Yilmaz isn't fit, I think he needs to play left back, because people know my opinions on Bournemouth. I don't need to go through them again. But Sterling can play anywhere. If Sterling's playing right wing, then I'll be like, right, I get it, go with it. Like, he's that versatile, and he's not put a foot wrong any time he's played. Like, his best game was probably in 3 away, when he was getting annihilated in most cases, but he was able to just bring such a presence into that side, and he's able to put a shift in wherever he is. So I think Diamandi plays alongside Lundstrom. Cantwell, I think, has got to play. I think it'll be quite unlucky for Lawrence to be dropped, because I think he's, again, similar to Sterling, he's not really put a foot wrong, but Cantwell's your best option. Now, I agree with Scott. Cantwell needs to show it in this game. Now, I don't want to hear that Cantwell did it in the last Old Firm game last season. That was a nothing game. Let's not kid ourselves. He was good in that game, but that game was meaningless. He needs to do it in this type of game. That's what a Rangers number 10 needs to do. He needs to be that big creative player. The man in front of him isn't going to do that. We know that. We know what we're going to get with Dessers. So Cantwell needs to be that guy to step up. And I think he's capable of it. I thought he was really good on Saturday as well, for the time, just to get him fit. Like, you could see he's obviously still struggling just to get back into sharpness, but he'll get there. And he clearly lives for games like this. I think it will be the midfield 3 of Lundstrom, Diamandi and Cantwell, and for the first time in a long time, I think it matches up fairly well with a Celtic midfield.
Do you know what? I wouldn't disagree with that. I'll be honest. Diamandi obviously very technical. For me, just Sterling just has that ability to be able to shut down a counter-attack, which is something that we're going to have to be careful with, especially with our defence. Our defence has been very good under Clement until recent weeks, where we've just seemed to be that one chance. We seem to kind of get a bit 6s and 7s. So obviously we saw that with the last Old Firm game at Ibrox, frustratingly, and the last one at Parkhead as well. Celtic didn't create many chances, but they took them, especially with a player like Kyogo. He's very capable of doing that. Cantwell, before he got injured, there was a lot of criticism coming Cantwell's way, just for his performances. And then he scored that goal against Hibs, and then scored the game after. It was something we hadn't seen from Cantwell. And it looked like he was hitting a really rich vein of form, and then just all of a sudden injured. Hopefully he can recapture that. If he can recapture that, he could be very deadly. But as you say, Scott, the last time we saw him play well in Old Firm was the one a year ago, where it was, I don't want to say friendly, it's the wrong word for that type of game, but there wasn't anything at stake, was there?
I think the argument for Sterling being in the middle of the park, I do get it. And I think we're probably a bit more worried about the protection of the defence with the fact that Cantwell's going to be in. And again, it's not Cantwell's game to track back. Tom Lawrence does that better, but so I think that's probably the fair compromise. Lawrence instead of Cantwell, and Diamandi in with Lundstrom. Scott, you look as if I just done something bad in your conflict.
No, I think where I kind of stand on that is that we know what this Celtic team pretty much picks itself. The only thing is going to be, is McGregor going to play, is Iwata going to play? Now, personally, I don't want I think Callum McGregor has really had the freedom of the park the last 2 games. So Hatate, I don't think's fit. O'Reilly hasn't been at his best. That Celtic midfield isn't in a rich vein of form. Like Hatate, we saw what he brought on Sunday, but that Celtic midfield is there to just get. Now it's just the big thing that we'll get into, I'd imagine, is this Rangers team cannot not make a mistake. This Rangers defence have mistakes in them, and they've had mistakes in them for so long. That's what's going to kill Rangers. There's no way, like, even look at every goal Rangers have conceded against Celtic in the past 2 seasons. It comes from a defensive shambles. That's how you win this game. Cut that out. That is on. I mean, it's no coincidence that Rangers, like the Kyogo goal in the first game. I mean, Souttar's playing him onside. Do you know what I mean? See, my head's a ball right in Bernardo's direction. He always get the freedom to shoot for 30 yards. These are wee mistakes that you cut out. I don't even get started in the ones last season at Hampden. Like, that's where Rangers are behind. It's Celtic don't really make those mistakes. Celtic were terrible last season at getting last game at getting the ball out for the back. Rangers didn't have the firepower to really threaten them. They were able to do it. That's the 2 things. Rangers need to address the defensive mistakes, but again, I've said this to Scott a lot in the past few months. You can't teach players who've been there 6-7 years to do different things. They'll just get mistakes in them. Like, that's why I'm very hesitant in Borna playing, because he's been down the road too many times. We know we're not getting anything better. These guys are going to make mistakes. Now, it is all about trying to stop that as quickly as possible. But you also need to be clinical. You also need to take chances. Celtic do that, and they don't make a lot of mistakes defensively. So that's been the difference the past 2 games. So if Rangers, and Clement in particular, I think he'll realise that. He has to realise that, because the way he's come out and went after the defence is quite admirable, because somebody's had to. But the last coach wasn't going to do that. So I think it's quite admirable that you haven't seen as many mistakes, but they're beginning to creep up. And the minute you stop them, you've got a chance of winning this game. And that's really it for me. Like, that's where I think the game will won and lost. If Rangers don't make mistakes, they probably win. That is that simple. I know that sounds stupid, but it's always the defensive mistakes that cost Rangers. Always.
Scott, would you not put Stelling in purely on the basis of, if McGregor plays, he's there to cover the areas that McGregor's going to play the passes into? Like, he's there to cut out the passes kind of thing, instead of having somebody man marking him and treating him like Raquelme get treated when Villarreal came to Ibrox. Like, I feel as if that's the way Rangers supporting the media, and everybody's looking at McGregor, that he's this some sort of god. He's not. He's a good player, very good player, and he's influenced matches. But I think there's ways of stopping it, and I think Dujon Sterling could be massive to that on Sunday. Yeah,
my worry with that is, though, are you sacrificing a number 8, for example? Because if you've got Lundstram and Sterling in there, you've Cantwell's doing a lot of the work himself, and that's what's really impressed me about Diamande. He's been able to be that kind of. He's been able to come back when he needs to and break up play, but he's also able to drive forward a lot quicker. I'm not a stats guy. I'm not a stats guy as much as I want to be, but I think it's so glaringly obvious how much Diamande's brought in just in terms of the transitions. That's the sort of thing that I think Diamande brings that Sterling doesn't. Sterling's a decent. Do you know what I mean? Sterling plays midfield. I won't be like, set fire to everything. I won't be, but I just think Diamande's the sort of player Rangers have missed for a long time, and this is the chance to really kind of put him in. It's a big game for him. Don't get me wrong. He's going to need to prove he's there, and it's similar to Silva. Silva plays. Silva's been really, really eye-catching to me at times, but there's times where you're just lacking the clinical edge to be what Rangers need you to be, and you're not going to get bigger opportunities in this game. So for that reason alone, just the way that Diamande is in transitions, I would lean towards him. But again, if Sterling plays, I'm not overly bothered, because I understand it. I understand why Sterling would be in there. I just really want Sterling to start left back if Yilmaz isn't fit. So there's a wee bit of selfishness there for me.
It takes me very nicely on to my next point, Jack. Scott does make a few very good points on the defence, and Rangers they absolutely love a brain fart. It's like, it's like cheese and ham. It's just Connor Olsen and switching off. Just go hand in hand. I think we'll all agree in the podcast that Yilmaz is the preferred choice to go in. Even if we can get 60 minutes, then he goes in. If he's no, Borna Barisic goes in for me. And I know that's not going to be popular at all, but I think we need basically the Sterling enigma. We all agree he should play where he plays. Don't know where. I think we need further up, pressing the fullbacks and using his athleticism there. So for that reason, I would play Borna Barisic. What's your thoughts on that? Am I mental?
I don't think you're mental in terms of the situation we're in with the left back area, being that we've only really got a couple of options at the moment. Yilmaz, kind of similar to Seamer for me. If he's ready to go for 60 minutes, I'd rather he starts the game rather than kind of bring him on for half an hour, sort of here and there when the game's sort of in the second half. But I think, as everybody is saying, Sterling has to play. It's where we play him. I think for me it would be playing out on the right hand side. I think he could give Tavernier a really nice double up in terms of Dice and Maida. I think Tavernier's struggled with Maida over the year or so that he's been with Celtic. I think his pace is just blistering. He's a real nuisance to kind of mark, and I think having two kind of defensive minded players there, but also players that can get you up the pitch as well on the right hand side would be key. That would then obviously lean into Barisic playing left back if Yilmaz can't make it, but I think it's obviously difficult with Barisic and his kind of tendencies over the years, but I think I'd probably lean towards that. And then obviously the midfield that we spoke about obviously in the previous segment, I think kind of picks itself, but I think there's real options now. I think that's something that Philippe Clement's not really had for a while since he's been Rangers manager. He's kind of had to put stuff together and make his own ideas. I mean, his own thinking was getting Dujon Sterling to play midfield, and we're all kind of talking here as if that's something that should happen. So he's came a long way for what kind of he's put in place as Rangers manager, and it's nice to see obviously that work's coming through. But I think Sterling probably on the right hand side for me. I would have to agree with you, Colin. Barisic on the left hand side, and that would probably be where I'd be at with it.
So obviously, if MD's seen Captain America: Civil War, Jack's Captain America, I'm his trusty pal Bucky. We're taking on the lot of these because I know we're in the minority. Scott Mackay, you get the gloves on. Borna Barisic, you won't be happy with that.
Nope, definitely not. I watched Celtic on Sunday, and Kuhn likes to cut in his left foot. As soon as he does that, Borna's going to stand looking confused. He's not going to have a clue what to do with it because he doesn't like people cutting inside him. And then you've got a right-sided centre half playing on the that left side of defence. Me and Scott spoke about it on the Rangers assessment most of the season. It's weak. It's weak, and it's been better since Ridvan's came in. So for me, Borna's an absolute no-go. If Ridvan's not fit, Sterling needs to sort in at left back for me. Just for the fact that Sterling will just roll a wee guy over. There's not much to him. Ridvan will be able to compete with him as well. Borna Barisic is too slow. He's not got a concentration span anymore, and he's not got the motivation for it. I don't think, anyway, going by his performances. I kind of touched upon Borna after the Air game, and I thought, if you're going to come in and contribute like that, where you're steady and you contribute assists, goals, we know he's got a wonder left foot, he can put a dangerous cross into the box. But the Kilmarnock, first half at Kilmarnock for me was enough, and it just the final nail in the coffin. He could play well for now to end the season, and I'll still be like, I'm glad you're going. I really don't want him playing on Sunday.
Andrew, I think if we're trying to be rational, apart from the Kilmarnock game, Borna Barisic hasn't really been poor under Clement, albeit he's played less. He's not been great either, but I think other than Kilmarnock, he hasn't been poor, and I would stand by that. I do think we put a lot of weight. I mean, Rangers fans were a nightmare at the best of times, right? But we do love a scapegoat. And I look at the criticism that Tavernier gets. I think for fans, we just can't shake that time at Parkhead where Carl McGregor was chasing after him like it was a wee lassie.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm not one to slate Rangers players. Professional footballers, they'll make mistakes.
There's a butt coming here.
Yeah. There certainly is, and I've got to choose my words carefully, or Bonus Da will make sure I wake up on a container ship in the Atlantic somewhere. But we'll all go back to that horror show at Parkhead on that midweek night. Where he just kind of went on his knees. I've spoke with the both Scots before in the Rangers assessment about Bona, and it's unforgivable. He will chuck it in a game, and you can't see that from any footballer. Now, he's put in some Sasa Papac performances in a sense under Clement, hasn't he? He's not really done too much wrong, but he's not really done anything. He's not really set the header alight. You look at somebody like Yilmaz, who's very direct, fast, likes to cut inside as well, which is just brilliant. There's a side to me that I'd still like to see Sterling in midfield, and if it has to be Barisic on the left, I think in this type of game, there's just a side to me that thinks it could be an option, but I am not a big Barisic fan. I really, it frustrates the hell out of me because we know what he can do. We've seen him even sometimes on international duty, and he's been he works well in that kind of, at times he did work well in that Croatian unit, and we've seen him in all from games where he's got to the byline, got a peach of a ball in, but he doesn't offer a hell of a lot else at the minute, and he is getting older. He could be a weak point potentially. It's a headache for me, to be honest with you, because I'd rather see Sterling in midfield, but safety first. If Yilmaz isn't fit, I'm caught in two minds. I think I hold on to too much. I can't forgive him, and that's the problem. Even if he was to score a hat trick there at the weekend. Oh, he's just such a frustrating one. He really is. He does my head in, honestly. We know what he's capable of, and the problem is, if he plays, there's that side you think 20 minutes in, he's going to pull up and just go off, isn't he? We've got to be honest, it's getting a bit too hot for him.
Let's be honest, he did that at the weekend. Martin Boyle came on and he knew it was coming. When, nobody, I don't like criticising Rangers players. I'm very much of the opinion that Rangers, I think a lot of fans at times can be very harsh on certain players. See regarding Borna, he's just went too far with me. And I will always say that night at Parkhead, the Lila Bada, let's be honest, ripped the pee out of him. Let's be honest, that's what happened. What was bad about that night is, though, he did it again, the 4-0 game not long after that. The season after, he did the exact same thing, completely lost the plot. Is doing that thing kneeling down. He should have been sacked for that alone. And Scott mentioned the point about Kilmarnock away. That's when it was like no chance. Like, he's done. Like, because Ridvan had come in and been such a breath of fresh air since Ridvan really kicked on after they went away. When Borna came back in, you could see the difference. You could see that Ridvan had kicked on massively, and Borna Barisic is not on his level. And that's where the worry is for me, that Scott makes up a good point. Kuhn cuts in. Kuhn is very similar to what Palma is on the other side. The Palma probably won't play. Kuhn does that on the right-hand side where he cuts into his left. Borna Barisic has never been able to handle that. Now, Borna Barisic up until that game at Parkhead was, I would say, he was probably one of my favourite left-backs, just with what he does in an offensive end. But there's just so much negative there where you go, right, you cannot trust him in a game like that because he is the weak link. And Brendan Rodgers is a smarter man than me. Brendan Rodgers will be targeting that. Brendan Rodgers will be going, this guy is worth annihilating him, because one of two things will happen. He'll pull his pants and he'll come off, and you've got somebody out of position in there if Sterling plays midfield. Or you keep at him and you get joy because he's just going to, he's just there for the taking. That's why I don't think now from an offensive end he's got his qualities, but defensively he's just such a weak link. I don't think he's the right man for me. That's when with the stuff in the new contract, I was like, you can, because he can't claw back what he's done the past couple of seasons. The regression in him, mentally more than anything, is where I would be like, right, this is the last straw. He should have been sold before now. Just let him go in the summer. But if it's up to me, Sterling goes in there because he's a safer option. Let's be honest. Sterling out of position is a safer option than Barisic. That's my opinion. I think I've got the evidence there to say why. Because we've seen him have a terrible game against Celtic more than once. Sterling hasn't had a terrible game against Celtic. And 9 times out of 10, look at Balogun in the game that Hollander goal. Balogun's playing out of position and he's the best player in the park. It's not impossible that players can do it. I think Sterling plays. I hope Yilmaz is fit. Even a half-fit Yilmaz plays for me.
But Scott, I think we all agree half-fit Yilmaz comes in, and I agree that there's been a change in Bonner. He is scarred for that night. But when we're talking about Rangers have a mistake in them, what you do get is safe ball Bonner, right? And I get that hinders his run forward.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get that with John Sterling. And the reason I say that is he's not... Who's he played against at left back? He has done absolute wonders since he came in at right back, midfield, right wing. I'm not going to sit here and say set the hair alight in the midfield. I think he has his positions. I think it's fullback or in the wing, but let's not say that he's bailed us out in the high pressure games at the left back. I think Borna Barisic is a massive frustration for me, but if he has to be 99% sure that the ball's on in front of him, or else he plays it back. Given how our 2 centre halves just refuse to talk to each other at times, it's not the worst idea, I don't think.
Possibly. I mean, there's logic to everything. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, this isn't like cut and dry. Where I take on board that's a very, very fair point. My argument to that is, if Rangers lose the game 1-0, but Borna Barisic has played it safe, but he's been at fault for a goal just by doing something like what he did against Lillabada, that's where my worry is, because he will play it safe, but he's capable of just getting annihilated. And I think the boy Cooden is close to Abada. That's my worry. That Scott rightly says he cuts in the inside. If it was up against Maeda, I wouldn't be as worried, but because there's a very tricky winger up against him, that's my concern. That's where, if it was Abada, I would don't play him regardless. Maeda's not really going to threaten him that way. Maeda's just going to work him into, just run rings around him, but he's not going to really force a mistake out of him. Kuhn's a good player. Kuhn's better than what's been there recently. Borna Barisic, I'd rather play Sterling just for that defensive stability than Borna. That's my opinion. I get on board everybody's point, but to me, Borna Barisic in there. If Borna Barisic is the team sheet at 11 o'clock, I'll be wanting to cry. That's my honest opinion.
Colin, see how you're talking about the centre halves there, and you were talking about they don't seem to speak to each other. They didn't seem to speak to each other well on Saturday for the Hibs goal. Would you potentially be bringing Balogun back in? I'm meaning that in a sense of depending who plays left back, just for that balance. Would you bring Balogun back in for Suter maybe?
Jack, I'm going to give you my answer, and hope to God, since we're best pals now, that you really back me up. No is the answer. Leon Balogun was the form centre half, but then he got injured. And I think what Clement's tried to do is build a bit of stability with the centre half pairing. And let's be honest, it is getting more stable as the weeks go on. It's not perfect yet. I think it's too big a gamble. There's a lot of players who are potentially got to throw in from the goal tier. I don't think we should do it at a centre half when we're just arguing about what's the least bad option at left back.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think Suter and Goldson have to be the partnership. I think, as we saw over the past couple of weeks and months, they've got that tendency to kind of give away really soft goals. And Hibs the other day, they're running up the pitch, it's their first opportunity and it's a goal. It's a bit of a calamity a goal in general for a lot of players in that kind of game. But Ross County, another one that kind of comes off. Motherwell, even when we get beaten that game for Theo Bair's opener. I think we've got the tendency to just give away goals when we're not really under any pressure. I think it's, again, concentration levels that have to be really key, and especially in a derby game. I think that has to be really on point. I think I'd stick with Suter and Goldson, just hoping that they have one of the kind of top games that we've seen them have, but not more recently. I think Balogun's obviously, I don't think he's actually played a game since he had that face injury. Correct me if I'm wrong, but so I don't feel that you can kind of throw Balogun in. It's a difficult one in terms of the left back area. If Yilmaz makes it, this conversation doesn't even matter. it's one of those kind of things, isn't it? But I think I'm on board with what everybody's saying. I'm not the biggest kind of Borna Barisic fan either myself. I just think there's everybody looks at the game a bit differently, I think, and I think you can maybe get away with him for some reasons and not.
See, just on the point of somebody brought up injuries, and I think that's another reason that Clement deserves.
It wouldn't be a Rangers podcast without talking about injuries, let's be honest.
It wouldn't, and I think that's why Clement deserves a lot of credit, because you look at him and you see him in press conferences. If he had any hair left, he'd be pulling it out. Let's be honest, because it must be so frustrating, because it just seems when he's beginning to get, when he brings in Cortez, for example, and I really liked what Cortez brought to the side, and then just as soon as you're thinking, right, that's the missing link, he's gone. Do you know what I mean? And I think Cortez would have been such a big option on Sunday, whether it's off the bench or not. He would have been exactly who I'd have been looking for to start. Now, two things here with the injuries. Clement's not once been able to pick his strongest 11. I'd love to know what his strongest 11 is, because we're not sure if he's going to play Sima, right? We're not. Danilo's probably the best striker. Cortez is there, and he's never been able to really get who he wants in his starting 11. And I think that's the big thing for me, is that if they were to somehow win on Sunday and go 2 points clear with a game in hand, from where that side was when Clement came in, that's monumental work, by the way. That especially with the injury record that Rangers have, and it's worse. It's been the worst it's ever been, because it just seems to be whenever you get somebody back, somebody else is gone, and they're just dropping like flies. And they've been dropping like flies all season. The only one that's been fully fit all season is Dessers. That's true, by the way. That's
Scott. You find the ball up,
clean as a whistle.
You find the ball up, and I'm just ready to knock it out of the park, because that brings me to my last point. It's a very good point you make about the injuries, and players are coming back from injury. Sima, Matondo, Balogun, we've just mentioned him as well. So there's every chance that we are stronger for the running than we have been all season. And Andrew, Cyril Dessers has to start, and I get this. I'm actually surprised that we've not said that Dujon Sterling's going to be a guaranteed on the wing, but this has to be a guarantee. Surely, to God, the big man gets in for you.
I think this is going to set social media on fire, talking about Dessers now, isn't it? I think he's chalk and cheese, isn't he? Scored a great goal at the weekend. I think he's very good when it comes to like the ball that came in for him when it's headers. I think he's very instinctive with those, because he reacts very well. I think when the ball's at his foot and there's a decision to make, I think that's what really lets him down. And I think it's all to do with confidence. Like, we've seen that from him. He did well, to be fair, considering past few games he hadn't scored and then has scored. So in theory, he's the informed player. For me, I know Scott was talking about Danilo probably being the best striker at the club. I would say Kemar Roof is, in a sense. Obviously, Kemar Roof is, he's being held together by a bit of string these days. But I was really hoping he was going to start at the weekend, because it sounded like he was fit. Obviously, he wasn't in the team. There was a lot of chat about, he's not quite ready yet. I'd love Roof to be playing in this game on Sunday. I think he would. Oh, he'd be brilliant. He'd be absolutely fantastic if he's fit. Dessers, I think, needs to get that kind of that hoodoo off of him a little bit. I think he'll be that one-on-one at Parkhead. When do we ever get a one-on-one at Parkhead for a start? You know, that was a golden chance. He took it on his wrong foot into the box. Then he was in 2, 3, 4 minds. And then, you know, Johnson was able to kind of get in. I would say clear it, but he didn't exactly clear it. He kind of came together with the player and he fell over, didn't he? Looking at Dessers in recent weeks, I think some of the criticism, understandable criticism, comes from obviously his missed chances, but he seems to be in those positions for them chances. Now, we've seen Rangers strikers in the past where sometimes they can be a little bit non-existent in some games, whereas he does have a lot of chances. Granted, he should be burying a lot more of them. There was that one in the box against Hibs where he flashed it past the post, which seemed harder to do. In the Old Firm, and I know we're at Ibrox, so there's probably the likelihood is we're probably going to have more chances, but there is going to be that gilt-edged chance, and is he going to bury it? I hope so. We've seen what he's done against Betis. I think he probably does start. You know, Kemar Roof, I don't know what's happening with him at the minute, but if Roof's not playing there against Hibs, I don't think he's playing on Sunday, sadly, so I think it is Dessers to start. Am I not confident in him? No, I think if he's got the right service, I think he could score. It's a difficult one. He's the enigma, isn't he?
Enigma, he is. And just on Kemar Roof, he is fit apparently. The manager said to the kind of post press conference that they do with the traditional papers that he was available. He didn't pick him. Scotty Mack, without mentioning Lawrence Shankland, tell us your thoughts on Dessers and why he shouldn't start on Sunday in the interested balance, because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you know, I seen your reaction when I mentioned you on Twitter saying he starts today.
He does need to start. He's probably the only fit striker we've got. We've not got a choice. No matter. Seema started, came on through the middle on Saturday, but you've seen with his one-on-one chance he had, he's not got an ounce of match sharpness in him, so he can't start through the middle. Roof won't start because he's had no minutes. So who else is there that's going to start through the middle? You're going to put Silva through the middle? I can't see that happening. He's not been playing there. I think it needs to be Dessers now. If you have to ask me whether he's going to have an impact or not, I'm going to say no, obviously, because I'm probably his biggest critic. I know I'm harsh on the big guy, but he's not shown enough for me. He needs to do what he done against Hibs on Saturday. I said this on a journal pod last night that one of the boys quite rightly pointed out that was his best game in a Rangers shirt, and I says, well, it's only took him till the 30th game of the season or the 31st game for him to have that man of the match performance. It doesn't really seem like a Rangers number 9 to me. He's too inconsistent, but we just need to hope for the best. He needs to rough him centre backs up on Sunday. He's probably going to be up against Cameron Carter-Vickers. What I would be doing is I'd be tying on to Liam Scales and trying to get a mistake out of him. I think that's where the error is in Celtic's backline, is Liam Scales. So Dessers needs to move over to him, because Carter-Vickers, there's a good chance he'll be better at Dessers, Colin.
Jack, I think I'm quite balanced. I can admit that Cyril Dessers has his limitations. That's clear for everybody to see. Again, back to copy and paste the section I said where we love a scapegoat and just apply it to the big man. I think it's not the first time I've seen him have a decent game in a Rangers jersey, but on Saturday he really perfected that false 9. I think we've seen players get ahead of him, and I think if it's Dujon Sterling or Silva or Matondo or whoever on the wings, them and whoever plays number 10 getting ahead of him, I think that's what he done so well on Saturday. So I'm not too worried about him battling up against Carter-Vickers. It's probably just coming in and having the hold-up play. I think that's where he'll be really valuable for Rangers on Sunday.
Yeah, I think Dessers as a whole was kind of not the striker I thought he was going to be in terms of the kind of link-up play and the range of passing he's maybe got, brings players into the game. Like Andrew said, though, it's the chances where he's got to think about what to do. That's where you get serial Dessers that we've all kind of seen this season, where he's not been clinical enough. And then he'll always take the hardest chance on Saturday. I mean, it's flashed in him, and he doesn't even need to think about it, and it's a goal. This could be the making of serial Dessers. I know it's been, as Scott said, there's 30-odd games into the season, but a massive performance in an Old Firm game to get over the line with possibly a goal for him could be absolutely monumental for his confidence, for everybody else's confidence in him, because obviously he was signed for big money, and I think was he on 13, maybe 14 goals for the SPFL campaign now. So I mean, he's getting goals. He could have had about double that by now with the chances he's missed, which is the most annoying thing. And he's been the kind of guy we've had to rely on for that position. Roof been dropping in and out all season. Danilo, unfortunate with injuries as well. Silva obviously came in. He's sort of more preferred at left wing now. So I think Dessers is going to lead the line. It has to be Dessers, the making of Cyril Dessers really this game. I think we've seen in big games, as mentioned previously, Betis away. I mean, that goal was just unbelievable considering what he had to actually do in the lead up to scoring. But he's got it in his locker. Is he going to be the guy that's going to fire us to victory? I hope so. But we've obviously seen Dessers all season, so we'll hold our breath on that one.
He'll probably miss a sitter, and then 2 minutes later he'll try and cross it in for the halfway line and miss it and score. You never know. I mean, anything can happen. Who says Rangers aren't exciting when you're watching Cyril Dessers? Scott, last word on you. Who do you play up alongside him? For me, I'm stand by it. Sterling on one side, Silva on the other. What I'm taking a lot of comfort in, we've got options for the bench. We've got McCausland, who can still have an impact. I'm not writing him off. Matondo with that wonderful goal at the weekend. Seema coming back in as well. We've got Lawrence, we've got Campbell. We do have a lot of different attacking options, so I'm not too concerned who we start on the wings, but it's just making sure we use them throughout.
I think I text you guys as well. I texted a few people this after the game on Saturday saying I don't think Wright and Silva's going to work against Celtic because there's no much of a press there. In Celtic's, Alistair Johnson's beginning to find form. Taylor can get forward. Maeda can track back and help out Taylor when he needs to. I don't think Wright and Silva are your two guys to do that. Now, one of them's fine. I personally think Seema has to play because he's the only guy for me who's shown that he can do the Maeda job, if that makes sense. He can track back. He's not fully fit, we know that. But he's the only... Look at his performance against Sparta Prague when he had to come back. He had to be that guy who would track back all the time and do the hard work at the back. That's probably what Rangers are going to need to do on Sunday. So for that, I would play Seema. I would play Seema just to maybe play him on the left and try Silva on the right or something, or even go Matondo. I don't know, it's tough. But I don't see what... Again, I've said it, Wright's not good enough. Scott Wright should be starting in 2024. He's no Colin. He's
Scott,
Colin.
I will take your Borna Barris' criticism on the chin. But Scott Wright has a part to play in this Rangers team, surely.
He's not Rangers class.
Maybe
Let's
not
kid
starter,
ourselves here.
But
no.
He is a decent option off the bench. Surely you can concede that.
Right. I'm going to throw some stats out here, and I don't like doing this.
No.
Scott Wright.
Because the listeners will clip the usage you're not a stats guy.
No, but it's not that I'm not a stats guy. I try to be, right? I try to look at stats. Scott Wright has made 18 appearances in the league this season. How many goals, how many assists?
Probably zero, if I'm being
honest. Zero goals, 0 assists. That's the only stat for me that says that guy should not be anywhere near a Rangers team that's playing against Celtic that they need to win. That's the reason I don't want it. Now, I get this thing that he's good at Hampden. Might be good at Hampden. He's not good enough. He's not good enough for Rangers. The fact he's still there is actually quite symbolic from a recruitment side. But he's probably one of the very few fit wingers, natural wingers, so he's probably going to have to play some sort of part. Now, to me, has Scott Wright done anything to say he deserves to start against Celtic? Nah. The only reason he's starting is because he's only fit winger. Now, I would even go further to say McCausland should start ahead of Wright, because McCausland has shown a body of work, even though he's not fully fit, before Scott Wright has. Now, that to me, if it's up to me, McCausland and Seamer, go with that. If you get 60 minutes out of it, go with it. If not, you can change it up. But you go with your best team in this game because you need to win the game. Get what you can out of these guys. It's 97 where Andy Dibble plays and Alan McLaren plays with a painkiller injection. That's the sort of game this is. You go with your strongest 11, whether they're fit or not. You don't go with a guy who's done absolutely nothing in the league this season, who's done nothing against Celtic. He's played 106 games and he scored 7 goals. But he's getting chances because there's nobody else there that can really do anything.
Andrew, I'll bring you in, but to give you a bit of context as to why I think Scott Wright, I get if we want to improve as a squad going forward, then we do need better than him as our main wingers, right? But I do think he can add value. There's talent there, it's just consistency. He is really, really inconsistent, and I know that's like that for a lot of Rangers players, but if you look at what he brought to the table on Saturday, it's everything that we're saying that some of the wingers can't do. So Seamer, Matondo, they can't press. Like the structure that Scott Wright keeps off the ball, the shape that he keeps off the ball movement, there is something to be had in that. That's why he does well in the big games. It's almost like when Gerrard randomly started Brandon Barker at Parkhead.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's very good at pulling players out to where he is and creates pockets of space. In an ideal world, I'd love to see Matondo on the left and Wright on the right. If they both had finishing ability, they'd be the perfect players. But they are, lacking in that area. Scott's not wrong with the stats. The stats don't lie. Yeah, he turns into a different animal at Hampden, but he doesn't have enough. Now, granted, a lot of his performances are late on in games. A lot of the games kind of are done at times, or, this, that, and the other. He was robbed of a great goal at the weekend, if we're being honest. Yes, he was encroaching, but so was Hibs players, but that's for another day. But his actual finish was cracking for the angle that it was. He is capable of being that person that kind of just get jink into the box, cut in, get a ball across. We've seen him do that. But a lot of his balls do tend to be a little bit aimless. When he actually does cut in, they're just into an area, not really a person. One question I would ask, actually, do you guys see Matondo playing a part in this, in this match? Because, of course, Matondo's got phenomenal pace. Yes, he's taken a very long time to kind of become somebody that can be relied on to come onto the park and play, especially after his injuries. But that goal he scored, that's something that was almost a little bit out of the Ryan Kent book of 2019, if you know what I mean. That was cutting inside and taking a shot. We don't have enough players that will just cut in, look up and take a shot. We need more people to take shots from outside the box, especially in a game like this where you've got a keeper like Joe Hart who, got to be honest, he doesn't get tested enough. And if he did, they would lose way more goals than what they do.
Scotty, what are you coming on that one?
I'll come in on that one. See, when I look at Celtic and I see the left side of their defence, it's kind of similar to what me and Scott were saying at the beginning of the season, where they've got Scales and Greg Taylor. They're not both great football players. They're not how am I putting it? They're not the Carter, the Tavernier and Goldson standard, so to speak, right? So for me, the biggest thing for Saturday is going to be if Sterling plays right wing, how are we going to get at Greg Taylor? How are we going to get down the outside? How are we going to get inside of him? How are we going to nullify our weakness and target it? Because it's there. That's where the game could potentially be won. So I don't think Matondo's the answer. I would probably be inclined to agree with Colin and go with Scott Wright, because there's nobody else currently. Oscar Cortez or Seamer's probably a guy you go with. If Seamer's fit enough to do it, then put Seamer down the right. But back to your point, Andrew, I think Rabbi Matondo I think he's potentially going to score a winner off the bench on Sunday. I think that their right back Johnson is there to be got at as well. I think if we had, if Silva starts at left wing, he's got a very good chance of getting a better Alistair Johnston on Sunday. And then you bring Matondo off the bench when there's tired legs, and he can have that impact and potentially score you a winner. What I seen from Matondo on Saturday, and quickly bounce back at what I've said before. Joshua Barry tweeted out an article for Rangers Review where he'd spoke to the Cercle Bruges manager, and they says that's something they've been working on, was cutting in for the left and getting him to finish with his right, and Clermont's carried on this season. And I think the work on the training pitch shown on Saturday. So I think Matondo could potentially be vital on Saturday.
Interesting stuff, gents. The very final question I'm going to pose to you, Jack. Without feeling too many conspiracies, do you think Tavo add his goal tally?
Well, there's every chance that he can. He's going to be a big player, obviously. He'll have to be a big player as he has been all season. I think looking at probably him and Butland standing them kind of alongside each other, there's the two kind of main components of this team this season that have performed so well. So I think there's always that chance that Tavernier does show up and play, and he'll have to. I'm quietly confident that he'll add to his goal tally. It'd be nice. And then going on to what you were saying about the wingers as well, I think there's options to be had there. Personally, I think I would more lean to Sterling and Sima on both of the wide areas, and you've got Matondo and Silva to come on throughout the game. But it's shaping up to be a really exciting game. We're only on Tuesday right now as we're recording this. There's so much time to be had to think about possible situations that happen, and it's going to be a really, really interesting week.
Interesting week it is. As you said, it's only Tuesday, and feels like the build-up's been going on for a week so far. But that'll bring us to an end, gents. I don't know about you, but I really enjoyed that. I'm already looking forward to the next month when we look back and think what were we worried about back when before we studied Celtic for nothing. But what I'm going to do in true Gallant Few fashion, I'm going to ask you all for a goodbye to the listeners and let them know where they can find more of your content, and finish up with a prediction for Sunday for your money where your mouth is. Kick us off, Scott McPike.
You can find us on SM Media Rangers for the Rangers Assessment, and if you want more Scottish football coverage, and check out SM Media on Twitter, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you want content, you can get it there. And I'm going to go 2-1 Rangers, 2 Tavernier penalties, and a meltdown of curse.
You all beating a pint after that, I tell you. Scotty Mac, thank you for coming on as always, mate. It's always a pleasure.
Aye, thank you for having me, guys. That was a good pod. You can find me pretty much any podcast going. I'm not going to lie, but mostly on the Rangers Journal as a podcast I'm running. We run all your YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, all that jargon as well. We're still trying to build up. I think we've only got 600 odd subscribers just now, so please jump over and get a wee like and subscribe for us. It helps us out. I'm going to go with a 1-0 Rangers on Sunday, and I think Matondo is going to come off the bench and get a winner.
We'll take it. Hopefully, maybe even a goal of the season contender for Matondo if he keeps up that form. Andrew, it was very lovely meeting you for the first time. Nice to put a face to the voice. Thank you for coming on.
No, thank you, Colin, and it's been an absolute pleasure being on, talking about Rangers, and the battle fever's definitely building. You can find me on all the socials at the Ibrox channel. If you're looking for the podcast, it's under the new Ibrox channel podcast, because the old feed had an issue with it. Unfortunately, I couldn't sort it. So if you're looking for the podcast, it's the new Ibrox channel. Also on YouTube as well. I haven't done too much on there, but there'll be hopefully some stuff coming soon. Prediction. Do you know what? There's something about 2-0. I think if we can score an early goal, Old Firms are always that type of game. Whoever scores first kind of wins, don't they, essentially? They get the ascendancy. I think if we score an early goal, I think we'll go on and score another. And if Matondo scores, I will get his face tattooed on my arm. I will do. if we can win that game. I'll do that because there's something about that. Matondo, I don't know. There's just something about that. I'll go 2-0 Rangers. I'll think Tav, free kick, and Matondo, I think, with a scrappy one.
I was so disappointed when you started with A and you finished with Arm. I thought I was taking a right turn.
I was thinking about it, but I thought, no, that'd be too painful.
I can't wait. There we go. The listeners have a reason to tune in for next month again to see your nice new tattoo.
This is definitely happening now, isn't it? Yeah, it's definitely happening.
Absolutely.
Now.
Yeah. This is recorded, my man. And last and by no means least, it's Jack Hamilton. Thank you very much for coming on, and also a pleasure to meet you.
Aye, same to everybody here. It's been a good podcast. Cheers for having us on. And you can find me every other Saturday podcast on YouTube, at every other Saturday one on Twitter. That's where we do most of our content. You can find us on Spotify as well if you want to listen to our podcast. We usually get them out weekly at the moment. So if you could give us a listen and subscribe on YouTube, very much appreciated. Prediction wise, it's something we never do on our podcast because I always feel like I'm just jinxing what's going to happen. But for everybody listening, I'll go 3-1 Rangers. I think we could be susceptible to conceding a goal, but I think we've got enough firepower, and especially with the crowd at Ibrox to turn that round. And I think Tavernier can't well, and I'll go Cyril Dessers, the champion of the Sunday.
Oh, you should have said Borna Barisic were the winner. That would have been a great round-up. But no, you can find me, of course, on the Gallant Few. If I'm not on Twitter, making up fake messages from John Beaton, you'll find us on YouTube and Spotify, Apple, and of course Patreon, where if for £1 a month you'll get daily content. If you paying for your content, it's not your badge, just find me a link wherever you get your podcast. Much appreciated. I think as much as I do think we will win, I think it's going to be a horrible game. It's going to go back and forth each way. We're going to go 3-2 Rangers. It won't be, I can't remember that any time I've enjoyed an Old Firm. Even a couple of years ago in the 55 season, we were 3-0 up 5 minutes to go, and I'm like, they're going to come back. They're going to pull it back. Never enjoyed one in my life, and I won't enjoy this one, but 3-2 Rangers are going for. So again, listeners, make sure you go and find every one of the pods on social media, YouTube, and all the platforms. It's much appreciated, and we'll speak to you again next month. This has been the AvenGERS, Earth's mightiest Rangers podcast.